Just call him.
There it is.
Okay, sorry, I'm joining remotely here. So it's 11:30. We'll call this meeting in order. And if it's okay, being that I'm not there, I'm going to turn the gavel over to Trustee Wasserberger to run the meeting today.
Thank you, Chair McGrath. Should we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And Chair Palmer, we're doing something meeting and watch that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ellen, will you please perform the roll call?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda for our meeting today, which is February 21st? And now we'll move on. I'd like to request a motion to approve the agenda for the regular GCCD Board of Trustees meeting held today, February 21st, 2024. First by Trustee Williams and second by Trustee Palmer. Thank you. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Approval of the consent agenda, which includes the meeting minutes of the regular Board of Trustee meeting held on January 17th, our staffing report, and our January 2024 financials.
Move to approve.
Second. And the motion has been made by Trustee Gee and seconded by Trustee Anderson. Is there any discussion? Just a correction real quick, Ellie, I think I clarified with Trustee Williams for the good of the district under his report. They're welcoming two new great grandchildren, not just grandchildren. Right.
Yeah, great.
Okay, that was the only thing that
I had to think about what my sweatshirt said. It says great.
Perfect, okay. And since it didn't change the business of the college, I thought I just wouldn't pull it off. Outside of that, is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So moved. On to for the good of the district.
Chair Wasserberger, trustees, it's my pleasure today to introduce our two Phi Theta Kappa advisors, Miranda Finn and Brandy Martin, and they're here to introduce our all Wyoming academic team. We're expecting two of our students to be able to be here today, although one of them could not come today because she has a clinical in LoSET and can do the transition back and forth. So we do have one student with us today, but you're going to hear about all three. So Miranda and Brandy, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Dr. Oberlander. We are recognizing three students who were selected by Dr. Oberlander as part of the All Wyoming academic team. All of the community colleges in Wyoming can nominate up to 4 high achieving students, and Dr. Oberlander selected those students for us. They submit an application. They have to have a particular GPA, involvement in the community, involvement at the college. So we're really happy to recognize those students today. So we'll start with Gino Burioni, who's here. Come on up. You know, this is for you. Gino comes to Gillette College from France. He's part of our men's soccer team. He's also the vice president of our student senate. He is pursuing general studies and history degrees to ultimately study journalism once he graduates from Gillette College. We're very honored that you're part of our All Wyoming academic team, and congratulations, Gino. One of our students who couldn't be here, who was honored by Dr. Oberlander, is Colson Cluck. He's an electrical technician student, and he is currently at his apprenticeship at a mine south of town. So Colson was another student selected as well. And I'll turn the floor over to Brandy.
Hello, so our third and final student who was unable to be here with us today due to being at a clinical site is Kayla Amos. She is a nursing student here at the Gillette College and continues to strive towards her educational goals despite setbacks and everyday obstacles. Kayla commutes every day, almost 100 miles round trip to be a student here with us. When she completes her degree here at the Gillette College, she hopes to become a traveling nurse and help everybody around the nation. She's an excellent example of how we can always finish what we've started.
And we would also like to thank the board for giving us a couple minutes of your time today to honor these students of ours.
Does our gentleman from France have any in with Summer Olympics tickets?
Yeah. That's gonna be complicated. I don't even know if I'm going back in summer in France, so.
Yeah, can you step to the mic?
Will you step up?
Can you just step to them because we're recording? so-
Are you gonna be back there for the Summer Olympics?
I don't think so. Because I want to stay here in Gillette, just like improving my skills as a soccer player. It's really nice here. We have a lot of facilities that I can use, and at the same time, like being my host family, we give a lot to me. So yeah, I hope I can stay here for the summer. Otherwise, I will be back watching the Olympic Games on TV, and maybe going in Italy too, hopefully. But that's it.
How far do you live from Paris?
Like 5 hours.
Oh, so you're,
I mean, France is really small compared to the US, so.
Gino, how did you first hear about Gillette College?
So I was in Kansas last year, in Neosho Community College, and so I wanted to be transferred for the soccer team. And so my company, my agent had my coach before, so I told about me like to him, and the coach called me. The program was really interesting, so I say, okay, let's go for that. That's how I came here.
Well, we're really excited to have you here and be a part of our community, and it's neat to hear that you want to really invest in that and that you're having a positive experience with your host family.
Yeah, it's really nice. Yeah, thank you.
Do any of the other trustees have any questions of Gino?
Not for Gino, but then continued success with your education. And hopefully you'll find a four-year institution that will allow you to continue to play soccer. Because I know that's a big thing for you.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for offer. We'll see how it goes.
Well, that's success.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So for the advisors, Brandy and Miranda, you can stand by this. So can I, first of all, thank you for that commitment of time that you put in. And I guess I'm just curious, Vice Chair, how much time does it take on a weekly basis for the chapter? How much time do you both devote to this? Because I know there's a lot of work.
Why don't you tell us about your mail experience?
Oh, if anybody's ever done a mail merge, they might know that it can be a task in itself. I spent a lot of time last week. Actually, we do our induction ceremony for those students who have joined, are eligible for PTK and who can join. They will join us at March 1st for our induction ceremony. So we send out postcard invitations. I spent a lot of time. I know Dr. Oberlander understands the printer, so it's just a thing in itself. But we spend a lot of time doing things like that and also communicating with students. Fundraising, we do like to send students to what's called Catalyst once a year. It's a leadership conference opportunity that students have to go. This year they'll be going to Orlando. So we've done some fundraising opportunities. We sold some Gillette College merchandise through Roam Around Wear. We've done bake sales before. Concession stands, we'll be doing those at the Pronghorn Games. Oh yeah, and we're hoping to do a adult spelling bee this year, so we're hoping to get that up and off the ground. So maybe the trustees will want to have it too.
Well, great.
I'm the advisor on record, so I spend several hours every week doing paperwork and a lot of communicating with students. Like Brandy mentioned, I'll be taking the students to Orlando, so there's a time commitment there. So it's pretty significant commitment in terms of time, but we're glad to do it to help these high achieving students with pretty amazing opportunities. Actually, Keatley is here today, the student body president. She'll be going to Catalyst in Orlando with us, and we're thrilled to give her that opportunity. It's the best student conference I've ever been to, and I've been in the business 16 years.
Well, thank you for all the work that you do with our students, and will you please extend our congratulations to Colson and Kayla as well, which we could give them the accolades that they deserve, but please pass that forward from us. Very proud of them.
Thank you. Would the trustees like to take a picture with Gino? And our advisors?
Sure.
Thank you. We're going to take them. So.
Yeah.
Just go in the center. All right, Gina, how about over it to Brand?
Front and center.
Sorry, you can't get.
Kind of a medium.
I wish I could.
A lot of height here. 1, 2, 3.
We should have taken it backwards, so.
Did we pace Josh in?
I can Photoshop. Congratulations.
You can do one perfectly one day and do the same thing the next day.
All right, moving on. Good news from the trustees. I guess I would like to just start off with asking for us to keep in mind the Saunders family. I think probably most people know that Mrs. Saunders passed away, and Cynthia was a huge supporter and carried a lot of pride with the college. So keep her in our memories and thankfulness. So other good news from the trustees.
We have the foundation casino night coming up. April
8th. No, 6th.
6th.
The eclipse is the 8th.
And I'm gonna challenge my board of trustees to see if there's something that they would like to contribute for that cause. I think it's a great way
I have mine almost
All right.
finished.
for us to show the community and the college how we love and support our college. So
Well, from what I understand, we are not doing an auction for the trustees, right? An open auction? That's what I understand. I talked to Heidi a couple of weeks ago, because I was gonna put something together big, and she said we weren't gonna do that this year.
Vice Chair Westberg? Sure. Trustees, you can donate an item for the auction. I'm
Yes,
sure
I'm
she'd
gonna
be happy to, whether it's silent auction. I don't think live auction this year, but silent auction for sure. She'd be happy to take donations. I have no doubt. So
She's nodding her head.
she's nodding her head back in agreement.
yes. So anyway, my challenge to you, I wanna see us support the college. It's a great event.
Thank you, trustee. Anybody else want to share things for good of the district?
Can we share sad things?
Well, I started off with a sad thing. So,
I'm really disappointed in our legislatures for not okaying the Senator Hensy applications. And there was 3 of them. And they voted no. So I'm really disappointed in them. And I hope everybody else is too. And Dr. Overlander, can you share exactly where we're at now?
Vice Chair Wasserberger, there's an agenda item on our agenda to talk about legislative updates. So let's wait and share that when we get to the legislative update. I'd be happy to discuss what I know and what could possibly be coming. So be happy to do that for sure.
Chair McGrath, do you have any news to share?
Looks warm wherever he's at.
Yeah.
Sun's up.
Yeah, sun's out.
Trustee Smith, you should talk about the rodeo bank.
Oh, we just did have our rodeo fundraiser. And it was well attended, well over 400 people. Great support for our rodeo program, which is both men's and women's are #1 in the Rocky Mountain region, and our women are #4 in the nations. Once again, the rodeos, they're doing their things. He broke every record we had from last year, which had set records, so I haven't seen a number yet. Dr. Overlander probably has some numbers.
Trustee, I have not received numbers yet, but I'm anxious to find out how.
Everyone I talked to had an absolute great time, so.
What I really like about that banquet, trustees, is that the rodeo students, a lot of their coaches organize, and the students are the ones out selling tickets. They're the ones out selling tables. They're the ones out gathering auction items. They're building, they're donating. So it really is a wonderful event to showcase those students, not only their talents in the arena, but in the classrooms, but also their craftiness. They have a lot of talent, so.
Yeah. Our rodeo team continues to make us proud, that's for sure. Wonderful. Any other news to share? Okay, moving on to organizational reports. President Oberlander, would you like to give the president report, please?
Vice Chair Wassenberger, trustees, thank you so much. It's always fun to give you an update. So Trustee Smith and I had the opportunity to attend the ACCT, the Association of Community College Trustees National Legislative Summit in Washington, DC a few weeks ago. It's always nice to get a chance to visit with the national delegation or federal delegation, but also get an update on what's happening at the national level. And it really is legislative focus. So they produce what's called the Green Sheet every year, and they talk about what are the topics that they want to focus on? What are the legislative topics? And then we spend time learning. We get updates from policymakers, those things. The piece that the Wyoming delegation chose to focus on was the Pell Grant. And so we spent time talking to Congresswoman Hageman and Senator Brasso. Unfortunately, Senator Lummis was not able to be there. She had to stay in Wyoming the week we were there. But with the Pell Grants, there's a couple of things. One, Pell Grants do not cover non-credit bearing courses. So they don't cover our workforce training. So things like the CDL program, which is an expensive program, it doesn't cover those types of training opportunities. So there's opportunity for that to be changed in the legislation. So that's one thing we talked about. The other piece is that the Pell Grant, if you receive Pell Grant, so like community colleges, our tuition is lower than the four-year colleges. So our students don't necessarily use up their full Pell Grant to cover their tuition. They're taxed on that excess. So they're receiving money to help them with their educational expenses, but if it's in excess of their educational expenses, they get taxed. So that's another piece we spent time talking with our delegation about. It's also fun because we got to hear from the interim Secretary of Labor. We did hear from the Secretary of Energy. I will go on record as saying the Wyoming delegation did not stand and give the Secretary of Energy a standing ovation when they talked about ending fossil fuels. That is our state. That's who we are. That's our state. But also Walter, who is a political reporter, if you've probably seen her, put your picture, you'll probably recognize her picture. She gave a really good synopsis, and certainly Trustee Smith, jump in whenever you'd like, but she gave a really good synopsis, a very nonpartisan synopsis about the upcoming election. And it was really interesting to hear her talk about both what's happening in the Republican, the GOP, but also with the Democrat side. And so I thought that was a fun, interesting opportunity to listen to. But we certainly have the information if you're interested. There's a lot more literature that you can look through if you'd like. I don't think we need to go to this every year. It's nice to go, every few years to reconnect, because in Wyoming, we're so fortunate. We get access to our delegation. We get access to our electeds. At John Heinz's funeral, Senator Brasso sat next to me. I sat next to the governor. Not every state has that opportunity to be able to have your elected officials at events within the local community. So I don't think it's something every year, but certainly in a cyclical way, we should be making our way out to DC just to be updated, just to make sure we're staying on top. Other programs that we'll certainly begin looking at when we become accredited would be things like the TRIO program. That program supports first-generation students, supports those adult students who are making transition. The WIOA program, the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act, is up for reauthorization, giving input to our state who administers that program. Those are all important programs to our students, so we want to make sure we're staying on top of those. So it was a good trip. Well, Trustee Smith, anything to add?
We said it on one session about AI, and it's not the AI in my profession, but.
Or mine. Just saying.
It was really interesting. I felt, my college, we're quite a bit ahead of a lot of community college in where we're at already. And I think we just keep moving that along, virtual. They actually visited with Dr. Oberland a little bit about where we're at and how we're doing. And that was very interesting.
In fact, the woman who was running that session has our contact information and could potentially come for part of her study to visit, to see what we're doing. We have been in the process of doing industry visits, and that's one of the questions we ask our industry partners is where's technology going? And Travis Grover, Dean of Current Technical Education, Dean goes with us on those visits, and we recently were at Cummings and asked how will things like AI, augmented reality change the way you do business? And it's really interesting to hear those industry partners. And of course, some of that is already in place, and I'm sure Sky could talk more intelligently about this than I can. But you have a truck that needs repaired. The diagnostics on the current equipment can be in communication with like Cummins and say Cummins doesn't have the part here and that truck's okay to drive to Billings for repair, or vice versa. They can be ready for that truck to pull in just because of the technology, the AI talking to the truck and to the dealer who's going to do the repair. Augmented reality, there can be a schematic put up on a piece of equipment, and it can show exactly what needs to happen for that repair to take place. Sky, anything that I'm missing, do you think? I mean, this could be a whole meeting in and of itself to talk about the technology and changes in industry, but we're starting to hear a little bit more from our industry partners. But Sky, is there anything that you think I missed, or Joe's here as well?
They're starting to get into the augmented reality as far as you can walk up to a truck and point your tablet at it, and it kind of gives you an X-ray view of where all your wires run and where your connectors are at, and pretty neat technology coming down the pipeline.
And things we need to train our students on, right? Anyway, happy to answer any more questions on the National Legislative Summit, but a lot of really good topics. I just wanted to give you a quick update on Area 59 as well. We've not had Ellen over for a while, and she's doing some really great things. So in 2023, they did 66 community maker classes, they had 26 members in the robotics league. Monthly memberships are at 52, unique veterans served were 45. So far in 2024, they've done 11 maker classes. They've had 32 monthly memberships and have served 15 unique veterans. So we're just at the beginning of the year. A few grants that they have procured: Wyoming Women's Foundation supports the WISE program, 3,000. Campbell County Park and Recs is My Grown Up and Me workshop. So parents bringing their children or guardians or grandparents bringing youngsters in to do some work in Area 59. That was supported by Campbell County Parks and Rec at $7,600. Of course, we do have the Verizon Innovation Learning STEM Achievers Grant, and we've talked about Ellen being recognized at the national level for that. She just finished the second creative aging class. That's in partnership with the Campbell County Library. That is a fun class. It's fun to see the pictures come up on Facebook. With Phase 2 funding, we are part of a Phase 2 funding in conjunction with the University of Wyoming. They're using that to apply towards new technology for Area 59, including a new Risen 3D printer and 3D scanning, VR grants, those types of things. What's most interesting to me is we talk about how do we develop the pipeline, right? How do we develop pipelines for our trades programs, CTE programs? How do we get students interested in those programs? So they've recently brokered, and that's the word used, brokered an agreement with Campbell County School District to provide field trips to all second grade classes, as well as all sixth grade classes in the district. And all of those classes will go through different modules over at Area 59, but they'll also come to the tech center and take tours of our buildings. So we're introducing them second grade, sixth grade, then they have the Verizon Innovation Camp, then we move into dual and concurrent enrollment. So that's how those pipelines begin to develop. Several other Campbell County School District classes, including fourth graders, have learned and will learn drone flying skills through drone workshops taught by the taught at the Tech Center and by Area 59 staff. We've had students in this building working on some virtual reality. It's fun to come in and see all the goggles happening here as well. We've also talked about professional development. That's one area that we talked about. How do we do professional development training for teachers? And so we've hosted our first session, and we'll host our second session this week, providing professional development to Campbell County School District STEM teachers. Along with teaching them to use our equipment, teachers are invited back to continue to develop their skills for the month following the professional development session. And of course, we're starting to see more and more college classes happening over there. The photography classes taught at Area 59. There is a machine tool class being taught over there, dual enrollment classes with the Yes House. Jill Maschio, Dr. Jill Maschio, her biological psychology class. Doesn't that sound like a fun class? We should all take biological psychology. Her students developed a prototype product last year, Angie, which you would be very interested from your perspective and from an occupational therapy, but they designed it, they developed it, they produced it. And this semester, her developmental psychology class is using AI to generate 3D printable action figures. They'll use those figures to write stories for their class. And then Jacob Olson's biology class is using Area 59 to develop 3D modeling skills. Summer program the STEM, the Horizon Innovation, and then robotics, we're hosting 9 robotics this year. It is a busy place. I will send her report to you with all of the details. It is a growing, we often wonder if we're running out of space. The University of Wyoming is, we have makerspace bigger than the University of Wyoming. So I believe we're leading the way in that area. So Area 59. Energy City Voices, of course, is back. The Encore Club is starting to ramp up as well. So Encore is like the booster club for athletics. They support Energy City Voices. They do fundraisers. They are planning their Sonnets and Chocolate on April 26th. Dennis will be bringing in an a cappella group to do some workshops with our Energy City Voices students. But they're also going to do a performance for the community, but as well as for Gillette College students. And on March 8th, the Upton Middle School students will be here for a workshop. So Energy City Voices, but if you're interested in the Encore Club, be watching for more information to come out on that. Of course, we're still continuing to work on accreditation. Accreditation is a main focus and a main priority. The next letter, our letter of intent to submit eligibility, will go out March 1st. Unless that's a Saturday, then it will go out the following Monday. But the letter, we have a couple weeks and we'll hit that deadline. Then we'll begin work, and we are working on the application. Our leadership teams and our faculty and staff participating in focus groups at Professional Development Week to help gather information. Where do we have the information and where do we have gaps? So that begins to develop the application for eligibility. So that's in full swing and full progress. Earlier this morning, I was notified that the Energy Capital Economic Development, there's leadership change happening. Phil Christopherson has announced his retirement. And so he'll be retiring at the end of May. There is a board retreat tomorrow for economic development. And so we look forward to the discussions, helping the college help during this transition, what's the role of the college in economic development for our community, and where do we fit with the entrepreneurship ecosystem. So we're looking forward to that. What I would leave you with is, of course, the campus certainly continues to be busy. On February 29th, we'll host, right now there's 50 people registered for a tech showcase, again, in this building. And that showcase is for working adults, out of town students, and the Yes House will be here. And then followed by March 6th, all of our Campbell County high schools are invited to a tech showcase. And right now I understand we have about 200 students registered for that. So this is going to be a busy building all the way through graduation. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions. Anybody have any questions for President Overlander?
Is the tech showcase here or in the gym?
Oh, no, it's here on, it's here in the tech center.
Okay.
Mhm. We do have a career fair happening on our campus on April 4th. That will be in the tech center
That's
or in the progress. So.
Thank you so much for your report. Campus is busy as always. Next, we'll do our Gillette College Advisory Board report, and this would be Angie's first report, so we welcome you here.
Trustee Osberger. So I decided to do it a little different this month because after our meeting, we heard from that a lot of students have been involved with the Council of Community Services as far as the holiday time. They had helped 7 families in total, as well as making Christmas baskets with the Council of Community Services. So I decided to kind of talk about what the Council of Community Services does. So the mission of the Council of Community Services is helping people help themselves with a focus on getting clients out of poverty. They have 3 different programs, one being homelessness. Their emergency shelter this year had an 83% increase in 2023 in both number of clients and length of stay, with an average of 30 clients per night. This is due to a lack of housing and struggling with rising cost of living. Most people living at the shelter are employed, they just can't make ends meet, which I thought was interesting. So they also look for permanent supportive housing for families and individuals. So part of their campus, they have the homeless shelter. They also have 6 low-income apartments. And these are families working with DFS services, whether it's to get their kids back or that sort of thing. And then there's also 8 low-income apartments, and their focus is on mental health, disabled mental health. So there also is, I also didn't know this, they also help with low-income Section 8 housing assistance. And this particular program takes multiple years to get approved. And they have a staff person on site that can help with the application process. So, which is also very helpful for people. So the other program is hunger. So the food pantry, they saw 3,100 trips to the pantry, providing to 1,050 households. There were 705 Christmas baskets and Thanksgiving cards given. The soup kitchen is open 364 days per year with fresh cooked lunches. And they serve 16,300 meals to over 1,000 clients. So that is with a total of 2,300 people served. This is the soup kitchen itself, 2,300 people served in 2023, with 800 being children and 300 being seniors. So they also have a community assistance program, which involves weatherization. And this is a state and federal funded program. And they have 450 income qualified clients or 220 homes. So this would be for if someone's furnace goes out, they would have someone, you know, the financial means to help with that. Also, the seconds on the avenue, all those proceeds go back to the Council of Community Services, which is wonderful. And for the people who qualify, donated items are sold at low prices, and the Council of Community Services gives out 500 vouchers provided to income qualified. So how can the college help? We talked about this, and it possibly could be their training and certification program to provide opportunities for skilled positions if they choose that. So that's one way of college. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. I'm sure Andy would stand for any questions if anybody had any.
Sure, I think it's a great program. It's been around for decades. I think it's a segment of our population that we don't normally see, but they're there. And yeah, I think if there's someone in the college can partner with a program or two, I think that would be great.
Great suggestions. Thank you for the advisory board. Thank you, Angie, very much.
I have one. Angie, what do we do with the homeless in this community? Is the Council of Community Services?
Yes. So that's a place for them to go, but they're only eligible to stay 30 days at the shelter. There are exceptions, you know, if they're working, that sort of thing, but that is where the homeless go in our community.
So after 30 days, they're asked to leave, or what do we do with it?
Well, I believe so. Yeah, I think they are eligible for 30 days and then
They sleep on the benches at Legacy Park. So is there a plan to help the homeless out? I think we have around 10 or 12 homeless in this community.
And I think, from my understanding, I think it's increased with all of the funding that we lost with, the COVID provided funding for a certain amount of time. And, but again, a lot of, what they see, they are employed, they just can't make it because of rising costs of whether it's rent or housing, they just can't make it.
Sure. Thanks, Gordon.
Yeah.
Finished.
I am.
I just want to say thank you. Welcome to the table.
Thank you.
Look forward to your reports.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll have Vice President Larson speak to us and enlighten us.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Wasserberger, Chair McGrath, wherever you went, and trustees. The administrative services departments at Gillette College are swimming along, doing well, working on their projects. Just want to give you a brief update on what we're doing. And then I'm going to get into a little bit about how the proposed property tax legislation could possibly have an impact on what we're doing here and the mill values and our ultimate revenue. So HR is getting their legs underneath them with their new leader and implementing procedures and policies and, well, not policies, but procedures and processes for annual reviews, employee HR stuff, right? So they're doing very well with their new leadership and their daily activities. Facilities also relatively new leadership. Their team is, continues to plug along, few little projects. Hopefully soon we'll have an exciting project going on that I will, I guess, tell you. It's going to be lighting the bridge. I told the advisory committee that it was going to be a surprise, but hopefully in the next few months, well, for sure in the next few months, that will be done. Who else do I have? Business office and IT are both working really hard with colleague, and business office has completed their first payroll in January in colleague in the new system. And that was just a huge transition from QuickBooks, a lot of time involved with my team to get that done. So excited about the work that they've done there. Want to give you a brief update on budget. We are beginning of next month going to start hearings for budget leaders and listening to their proposals and giving them feedback on things that they'd like to have in their departments for the upcoming fiscal year. And so we'll start with the faculty and student services side at the beginning of the month. And by the end of the month, we'll go through my departments as well. And then I'll be reaching out to the finance committee for meetings on the budget before we do our public presentations. So that's a little background on what's going on in my department. Wanted to share, Ellie, do you mind starting the proposed property tax legislation that is happening in Cheyenne? There initially were 24 bills regarding reducing property taxes. 5 of those, as you can see, listed here, are the ones that the Wyoming Community College Commission, Vice President, CFO Michael Swank recommended we pay close attention to. So I will get into the details of these 5 bills here and how my calculations say that they will impact us. But for now, if you could go to the next slide. Wanted to start out with a little bit of background. I know that you all have seen these graphs by Department of Revenue probably before, but you can see that Campbell County has 7% of our mill value comes from property tax, which is a decent piece of the pie. Obviously, we're blessed here in that 81% comes from mineral value. And I'm going to compare some of the other colleges and their counties in this presentation as well. But just a note that in Campbell County, Gillette College, from a use perspective of mill value, is only 5% of the pie, and all the other colleges are between 10 and 14%. Obviously, because we aren't assessing our full 4+1 mills. So next slide, Ellie, please. These are all the counties that have colleges other than Sublette County. I just put them in there because they're the only other one close to us in terms of percent that comes from property tax. But I wanted you to kind of see how the other colleges will be impacted as well, but also how difficult it is to say how much each college is going to be affected by these property taxes, because there's such a different tax base for each college. So Park County and Laramie County slightly above 40, well, Park County's almost 50, Laramie County above 40, Sweetwater County only 11%. Sheridan County, 75% of their mill value is based on property tax. Natrona County, 46, Fremont and Goshen, 35. And again, sublet is just in here for informational purposes. There's not a college there. I think that's it on that slide. So more information that you've probably also seen in the past, but I wanted to just kind of make sure we're all on the same page in terms of baselines when we start talking about changes in potential revenue income for us. So in 2023, obviously the mill value was 5.7 billion. 15% of that was made up of local taxes. And of the local taxes, residential made up 44% of the local. So the 378.96 that you see there and the 3.9, almost 4 million from residential taxes, those two combined make up 7%, as you saw on the previous pie chart, of the 5.7 billion. Average mill value over the last 5 years has been 4.5 billion. My projections on the next slide are assuming a mill value of 5 billion. And one other thing I would like to note about these property tax proposals, they would go into effect January 25, but wouldn't impact us till fiscal year 26. Just to keep that in mind. Okay, so next page, Ellie. Thank you. Lots of information on this slide, and I'll just talk you through it. First column is obviously the bill. There's a column in here for the LSO fiscal impact. And Michael Swank with the Community College Commission has the information from the next column. And he said he got his data. I talked to him a little bit about his assumptions and data, and he took the LSO fiscal impact as well as Board of Equalization abstract on real estate changes and projections. So he reminded me that, you know, these estimates, because of the way the mills are collected and distributed, are really rough estimates. And so my math is really back at the napkin kind of math. Real simple application of some of the reductions to the numbers that you saw in the previous slide to get to my projections. So the very first bill, House Bill 103, will reduce your taxable values as a percent of fair market value from 9.5% to 8.3%. That bill is still viable and still moving along in the process. Assuming 5 billion, if you have a 5 million there, sorry, that's a typo, 5 billion per mill, the impact to us could be 156,000 if we continue to assess 2.6 mills. The next two, House Bill 127 and 133, fortunately are both not likely to proceed through the process. They were huge impacts, especially 133, which would decrease property taxes across all entities, so including mineral. So that would have had roughly 25 million revenue impact to the colleges as a whole, but would have significantly impacted our mill value. So we're fortunate that one did not continue to go through. Senate File 54 for residential real property used as a primary residence, 25.6% of the fair market value would be exempt, not to exceed a total value of 200,000 of the fair market value. So you'd have to have a home worth $781,000 to get the full $200,000 benefit, but everybody would have a reduction. You'd max out at the 200,000. So what that means is if your house is worth 781,000, according to the assessor, then you'd be taxed on 581,000. So you can think about, I guess for this one is really the most difficult to kind of project because home values are kind of all over the place. And other than digging into some big details with requiring a lot of time. Wouldn't really be able to tell you exactly what the impact is, but again, my rough estimate, 81,000 per mill. So if we do 2.6 mills, a little over 200,000 reduction to our income. Last one, Senate File 68 exempts all tangible personal property. So fixtures, equipment, furniture, for residential, commercial, industrial, and agricultural effective January 1. So could you go back one slide, please? So if you'll see over there in the blue table, all I did really to come up with this estimate, I can find my number, is to just take out the furniture and fixtures from each one of those local, the personal aspect, personal property tax for each one of those areas. So residential personal, commercial personal, industrial personal, and then apply that percentage to 5.7 billion, and then apply that percentage to my estimate of 5 billion, and came up with 5.6% reduction in mill value, which on $5 million or 5 billion, sorry, would reduce our income by 732,000 for 2.6 mills. So yeah, again, little bit. I like this term, back of the napkin math, but but my numbers are consistent with Michael Swank's, and I think kind of passed the reasonableness test in my mind anyway. So we will see. A few other property tax bills on my last slide and in the last page of your handout, mostly relating to a certain percentage of an increase. If you have to your property tax, then you'd be exempt from the increase. But again, these aren't ones that were anticipated to have a huge impact on our portion of the mill. So can I answer any questions?
Questions or comments for Vice President Larson? Trustee
I
Lee?
knew it.
Well, so a couple things. First of all, thank you for putting this together. I'd be curious to see Teton counties as well. And the reason I ask that is, excuse me, Teton County is of course under the central Wyoming sphere. And I know they're trying to pursue a separate campus as well. And so I would be curious to see what Teton counties. And then the other comment I have is House Bill 203, which is the new Representative Parchment. I think it just came out. I think it was just on file yesterday.
Yeah.
And it replaces property tax with a 2% adjustment to sales tax. And so I'm curious as to what that impact would be. And districts across the state.
Well, and that especially if I can tag on, applies to Teton County, because as written now, it exempts the first $1 million of residential property. And so I think
A lot of those would still be impacted.
everybody's gonna be crunching the
Yeah,
math, but I think that bill, I mean,
It's got legs.
it's got support. And so that would be one that would be helpful to get
Mhm.
a guesstimate on how it would impact us. I guess the other piece is, from my perspective, it costs what it costs to effectively run the college. And so as the legislature tinkers with these things, we're still gonna present a budget that requests the funding needed. And it's just, for us, it would adjust the mill amount.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's just math.
Yeah, yeah.
So they can tinker with how it's calculated, but us and so many of the other that are able to set their mill within their limits will just be tinkering. with the math.
Yeah, Trustee Gee, it is fortunate that we have some wiggle room in our total mills that we would like to assess. So
Yeah.
based on what we've done in the past.
The other colleges do not.
Yeah.
They're assessed all 5, obviously, they do not. Other than LCCC, they've assessed 6 because they went out to bond.
Well, and what I'm reading from this is it would be a huge impact to Sheridan, right? If they're relying primarily on residential. Yeah, so it's interesting. I know homeowners, that are on fixed incomes especially are struggling with the increase in property tax, and not to make that a smaller issue. I know for those people, it's very distressing. But it will impact our institutions around the state as well, so.
Chair Wasserberg, I've got past Chair Palmer. There has certainly been conversation about how do you backfill, right? How do you backfill the revenue loss for those entities that rely on mill for their generation? I'm not sure that there's been anything landed on yet. Certainly when I was down there last week, the session was just getting started. You do receive Erin Taylor's updates and her insights that she provides. I would suggest joining those legislative calls on Fridays, so you can hear what the updates are and what has happened over the week. It'll give you certainly more flavor and more color to what's going on. And certainly if there's anything that we need to act on with our delegation, so.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Any last minute questions before she leaves the podium?
Thank you for putting together.
Yeah. Sobering as it is. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
And thanks to your whole department that you highlighted as well. All right, Faculty Senate report. Welcome, Mr. Craig.
Good afternoon, Chair McGrath, Vice Chair Wasserberger, trustees, and Dr. Oberlander. All right, first and foremost, we're really happy to be back in classes with our students. Of course, that's the most important and the best part of our job. The beginning of the semester is always a very busy time for us, and most of us have administered, our students have taken their sort of first maybe barrage of exams. That's always kind of serves as a nice sort of success point in the semester. The curriculum committee they're working to get things in order so that we can seamlessly move forward as we get closer to HLC accreditation. The assessment committee, the Higher Learning Commission requires that colleges and universities assess the success of their students and in our classes, and we have to meet certain standards that we set and deploy ourselves. The assessment committee has reported that they are working on an assessment handbook that helps guide faculty and processes on that. They've melded the Sheridan College core abilities to our instructional learning outcomes that we're developing here. There's a heavy lift at the moment to align the gen ed classes with these core abilities or institutional learning outcomes. And the committee and faculty will be working toward aligning those program outcomes as we move forward. And this allows both Sheridan College and Gillette College to meet our HLC requirements and our obligations to our students as we move forward, and as well as Sheridan College meet their requirements. Faculty Senate has moved forward another draft of the Faculty Senate Constitution and bylaws to the cabinet. The new faculty handbook was distributed a week ago or so, a week and a couple days ago, and faculty are reviewing that. The Senate intends to receive faculty input on that document at our next Senate meeting, and we'll forward any ideas or thoughts that come through that up to the cabinet. Faculty completed their performance evaluations using the new evaluation documents and the processes that are involved there earlier in this first part of February. Believe we are the first employee group to use the new evaluation tool. At the December Board of Trustees meeting, I reported that, quote, faculty in the 3 different schools, nursing, tech, and A&S, are working with their deans to submit recommendations in addressing the compensation issues, end quote. Those concerns were addressed and some adjustments were made to the schools of nursing and tech. However, A&S faculty, which comprise about a little over half of the Gillette College faculty, have had their proposals and compensations considerations removed from the table and suspended indefinitely. Well, that's a little concerning. Faculty asked the cabinet to administer a climate survey. We appreciate the administration hearing that. A cultural survey was commissioned and conducted by D. Stafford, and I believe everyone's aware of that. The study reported that there was a disconnect between the culture that employees hoped for compared to the current district culture. Dee Stafford recommended that we work to realign this culture, and there has been a committee tasked with looking into that, and we think that's a real positive. The study also found that employees are very committed to Gillette College, but struggle with belonging and judgment. Kathy Cox suggested that if we want to be successful in creating this new college, we will need strong support from both our internal and external communities. And then lastly, I reported at the December meeting that while there continue to be concerns, and I'm quoting, while there continue to be concerns, we believe these can and are being addressed, and that as we move forward, there will be a spirit of collaboration and cooperation, end quote. And faculty still embrace this sentiment entirely. However, contrary to some recent news articles, many concerns are ongoing, and we have yet to reach a satisfactory resolution on all those fronts. With that, I submit that the faculty look very forward to a productive and successful semester from our semesters and for our district, and I will stand for any questions if you have any.
Chair Wasserberger, can I ask you a question? Matt, so you talked about arts and science not receiving salary adjustments. Is it correct that arts and science received salary adjustments early on in the compensation study rollout? Is that
Since
correct?
that time, yes.
That's
But
all.
since that time, there were additional adjustments to tech and nursing. They were asked to put proposals forward, and A&S was, and we met that deadline, but that's that part. The secondary piece has been removed.
But arts and science did receive salary adjustments, correct?
At the beginning of the year, yes,
Thank you.
but not subsequently.
If there's any questions from the rest of the trustees for Mr. Craig.
I'm just confused why this is the platform for some of these conversations. I don't know that that's the proper structure, and maybe we're a little unfamiliar, but further, we were provided a copy of the report that you were citing from, and so I'm curious, do you think that the trustees are not familiar with the report?
I would not know. I mean, I would not know the answer to that. I
Okay.
assume you are,
Well, in
yes.
our fiduciary role, we approved having that study done, and we are intimately familiar with the report and its results. And we're hopeful that all sides will take a serious look at how they can positively contribute to making this a better college to serve our community and our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gee.
I have one. Some of the issues that you reported on, how much of those issues are related between the transition from Sheridan to Gillette? In terms of, I guess I would say, the issue.
I don't know that I can really address that. That may be playing a part, certainly, but I don't know. I haven't thought of it in those terms, so I wouldn't be really prepared to address that right now.
Thank you.
Trustee McGrath, do you have anything to add? Excellent. Well, thank you. I love the introduction that getting the students back, and that group was very excited to get started. So I think keep the eye on the ball about the students is just really paramount. So we appreciate all the hard work that all sides come together and deal with what you need to deal with.
And we appreciate the interactions with administration and board. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to old business. Password. For old business, we're on the second reading of board policy 3000.33, which regards investment. It's called the investment policy. President Oberlander, do you want anything to speak to on that policy?
Chair Wasserberger, trustees, there have been no changes since your first reading, so this is just the second and final reading of this investment policy.
Madam Chairman, I would move to approve. I'd like to have some comment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll give that one to Trustee Smith. And Is there any discussion?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We're continuing, I understand, to work on the procedure that backs this policy up. There are some questions as to what's FDIC insured or not as far as investment opportunities. And I'm working with Vice President Larson on clarifying some of the questions that came up when we, finance group reviewed the procedure, but the policy itself is in good shape.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that insight. Any other discussions, Mr. Fuller?
So again, and I appreciate trustee Key's comment. I think it's important that we separate policy from procedure. And I think that's what this does. I look at this, I have a lot of questions, but I'm presuming that the procedure will include those in terms of like, and we talked a little bit about this last time, was the fact of state, and it's included in here, but there's also a federal in the sense of grants. And making sure that we're following, as I know, Chief Financial Officer does, that, the generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP and GAAP, or those types of things. And I presume that's all going to be in the procedures. And so with that understanding, I'm good with policy.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. New business. Our first item under new business is the academic calendar for 24 and 25, submitted for approval. President Oberlander, do you have any remarks regarding the calendar?
Chair Wasserberger, trustees, until we go through our full accreditation, we have to follow the calendar from the Northern Wyoming Community College District. That has a lot to do with the disbursement of federal financial aid. You can only disperse federal financial aid so many times per year. So our students receive federal financial aid. So we need to make sure that they are in line, withdrawal dates, all of those things become very important to compliance. Now, as we start to get closer to when we do not have to follow their academic calendar, we will begin to set our own dates. And that's when we get to have real good involvement from all of our faculty and staff, because the dates when we start a semester and end a semester are very important. How long do we want our fall Christmas break, that time in between Christmas and the start of the new semester? How long do we want? Do we want to run an intersession? There's a lot of opportunity for us to take a look at this calendar. However, right now it does still need to follow NWCCD. So this is the same calendar with there is no difference. So it just needs your approval for your approval.
Is there a motion to approve the academic calendar for Gillette College?
I so move.
Second.
Moved by trustee Anderson and second by trustee Williams. Is there any discussion?
Do we know if this aligns with the school district's calendar?
The spring break does, but I am not
Okay.
100% sure.
I just realized that could impact our meeting appearance.
Yeah.
But as you said, not much we can do.
We're kind of held hostage on it.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Not all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those that are opposed, so moved then. All right, ratification of our new foundation board member. Director Gross, you want to introduce this?
Thank you, Vice Chair Wasserberger and Chair McGrath. Yes, today, I believe you've seen the bio, I would just ask for your ratification of another new foundation board member, Dan Neal, who was on our foundation board. He was our vice president. He has retired and is leaving the area. So Don McKillop Jr. will be taking his place on the board. Don's family owns DRM Incorporated. He's very involved in the community. He served on the Chamber of Commerce Board, has been involved with the Newey Contractor Association. So he's also a very strong supporter of the college. So we're thrilled to have him join our board. So with that, I would just ask for your ratification of his application.
Excellent. Is there a motion to
So moved.
ratify?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Same sign. Please extend our thankfulness to Don for being willing to serve on the advisory board, and we welcome him.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, deposit authority or account authorities update. Vice President Larson, do you want to provide us with that update?
Hello again, Vice Chair Wasserberger, Chairman McGrath and trustees. Is this on? Oh, there you go. Can you hear me now? Good visit. Okay, so the First National Bank account has Mr. Palmer, Mrs. Gee, Mrs. Wasserberger, Tony Bell, who doesn't work for our organization, but was basically very important part of our program when we were first getting started and assisting in the accounting and managing of the books, basically. So she was a signer and I'm a signer. I would propose to take her off and substitute former Chair Palmer with current Chair McGrath as a signer. And also add Samantha Rankin, she's the accounting manager. And she would have authority to sign up to checks up to $5,000 on this account. So this account really, we don't move money in and out of a lot. This is where we put the reserves. And we have just established the reserve balances, as you can see here. So there really won't be any, for the most part, any checks written against it. When we start to tap into the reserves, if we do, we would move the money over via wire or ACH, but we still have to have people who can make decisions about the account. And so that's what the first part of this page, I think you have, talks about. And I think we'd need a motion to change those signers so that I can bring it to the bank and then no?
I don't remember if we need a motion or not, trustee, are you doing?
I would encourage a motion.
Yes, that's what I
So
was
for
gonna
that
say.
reason, I would move to approve the request.
I would second.
So it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't-
discussion?
I do have a question, for those transfers of money, as you described, Samantha's limit would be 5,000
Yes, correct.
or even in.
Yes. Mhm.
Thank you.
And, Anne, would you mind going over the proposed signers? Because I believe, I'm not sure if they matched what is on our attachment.
Oh, sorry. Proposed signers, I have Chairman Josh McGrath, Allison Gee, Tracy Wasserberger, me, and Samantha.
Oh, okay, so that is your proposal. Okay,
Mhm.
just thank you for clarification. Any other discussion?
So, Vice Chair, can I, first of all, thank you for taking me off this list. And does that also mean that I will not get my monthly email from FDIC anymore? Saying that we meet the qualifications for having enough, what is it, the retention of funds?
You'd have to update it with the Federal Reserve.
So if you could make sure that happens
Okay,
as well.
sure.
I can forward a copy of the email that I get.
Don't
It's-
you enjoy that email?
No, not really. I get too many emails as it is. And then I guess I have a question, because I'm really pleased, and I don't know if you're gonna talk about this or not, but we're moving to interest-bearing investments.
Correct.
And I presume that this is in line with what the report that we got or the summary we got from Security State Bank a while ago. Mr. Gross came in and talked about the investment of funds, and I presume that that's what this bottom part talks a little bit about.
Trustee Palmer, no, the bottom part, that was with Security State Bank. And that was regarding changing from having the banks pledge to, yes, to a pool of funds from other banks.
But these are marketed then through the Wyoming Investment Fund then?
These would strictly just be through First National Bank,
Okay.
moving from a basic checking with no interest to interest-bearing accounts, government account for interest-bearing. Yep.
And then can I
Absolutely.
Since we didn't, it was on the consent agenda, but you gave the financial report was on there. And I noticed the comment that you made was, we're starting to see a consistent run rate for expenses.
Correct.
The past 4 months. And I see where it looks like we may have, our revenue may exceed what our expenses look like, or expenditures look like for the rest of the year. So is that what this does in terms of some of that, or is there still some additional monies that we could invest beyond what you're showing here?
I do believe, why does this keep turning off? Maybe the battery's dying. I do believe that, yes, there will be some additional that we can invest with the Security State Bank balance.
Okay.
So that, current balance is about 15 million. I don't think we'll run through all of that by the end of the year. We will have probably a little bit of carryover, not as much as we had coming into this year. I project a real rough estimate at this point, about $1 million, that we could invest with them under an actual, or that we could take out of Security State Bank and invest with an investment firm once these policy and procedure is established for investing. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I know you'll work with the finance committee to do that. I just, right now, there's some very lucrative in return rates, interest rates right now, and I just want to make sure we take advantage of those while the Fed has not done anything with the interest rates, because I know that's going to change probably by the end of this year. So
Yes, and so that's what I'm attempting to do with these First National Banks. Just grab that while we can, since we won't have any necessarily need for this in the next 12 months.
Okay. Thank you, Vice President Larson.
course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Ballmer, for the discussion. Okay, so it's been moved in second. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Say so moved. Next item of business is the agreement for purchase of property. President Overlander.
I'm sorry, legal counsel is giving me dates. Are we on to the purchase agreement? Is that
Yes.
what we're doing? Okay, so in front of you, and you have had the chance to review the agreement for purchase on the sale of real property, which is the NZ building lots that we have so lovingly now started calling them, but it's the 6.4 acres in between College Drive and NZ Drive. This is, this purchase was approved by the commission. It was also part of the capital construction bill that has since been removed. It failed to receive introduction in the House during this session. However, it has been approved by the commission. I have checked with Michael Swank. I don't see any concern for us moving forward on the purchase of the land. At this point, the city has approved this purchase agreement. They approved it on February 6th. So that would be the date we'd want to also approve this as of February 6th. So the other note for us to consider as we move forward with the motion is once we get to December 1st of 2024, when we close, there will be additional documents to be signed. In this motion, do you want to also include the authority for me or for Trustee McGrath to sign off on the closing documents? And legal counsel, Harding, please interject.
My suggestion to the president would be that either of them be authorized to execute documents to consummate the transaction consistent with the agreement. They won't all require board action.
Do you want a motion and then we can have a discussion?
Yes.
I would so move.
Right, it's been moved by Trustee Ballmer. Is there a second?
Second.
By Trustee Williams. Now discussion.
And that motion includes the signatures for closing or not?
Not yet. Not yet. This is just the motion as it was presented. We'll do it. I would suggest we do it at addendum to the motion once we have that discussion.
Okay. Discussion?
Yeah, I just have a comment and a question. The question first, if we approve it as of February 6th, we are significantly shortening up our time to get the title commitment and review it. Do we have a title commitment?
I don't have it in hand now.
So
They're aware that we're anticipating a short order.
for that reason, I would recommend we make it the effective date today. And I don't know if that's problematic, legal counsel, but otherwise we can make it due diligence right, which I think is not a good idea. And then second, I had this discussion with legal counsel. I have had some personal experience, and Mr. Chairman McGrath is familiar with these experiences that I've had in real estate, that, you know, when a seller can force a buyer to execute on a contract, it sometimes can result to bizarre outcomes. And that's what the language is in this agreement. If there is a dispute that comes up during this purchase and we determine for some reason that's not within the due diligence provisions, that it's no longer a good idea. Not saying the city would force us to execute on this contract, but as is written, they would have the ability to force us to purchase this property. I had asked Council Horning to speak with the city about that, and they were unwilling to move, was his representation on that issue. So just for the board's sake, to make sure that you understand, if something comes up that's not within the due diligence provisions, once we agree to this, we're in. So,
Madam Chair, can I
thank you.
ask that? I think that's a good point, Trustee. Could you then give us for example, if something that might cause us concern?
I mean, I think it's highly unlikely that there would be a problem, but for example, if for some reason we didn't have the resources to pay for the closing, or we found that we were not going to be able to carry forward with building something within the timeframe set forth in this agreement, not because of our own ability, but because of the legislative holdup, right? I mean, I don't know what that is. I think it's unlikely, but we will have put ourselves in a place where we could be forced to purchase the property.
So, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, I think we had this discussion before, and I think we understood that there was always that that possibility, the realm of what ifs occurred out there. It doesn't specify, I will say this, as I read the contract, it does not specify the type of building that we must put on this piece of property. It only states that we must put a building on this type of property. We all know that it's the home, the eventual home of the NZ building, the Michael B. NZ Memorial. And that's our goal, is to have that. However, it doesn't stipulate at this point within the time frame the type of structure that we put on there.
And that wasn't my main concern.
But just one example of what could happen.
Right, so the city isn't probably out much if for some reason we didn't follow through on this, but they want to reserve the right to sue us to enforce this agreement and make us buy the property.
But and I think the intent of this board all along was that we want to secure that land.
Right, I agree.
Because it's important. It borders NZ. It borders the college. It gives the college, past my lifetime, the opportunity for growth and development. And so I think it's important that we secure this. And I appreciate your due diligence to bring that to our attention, because I think there are no givens in this process. And as Trustee Williams earlier said, we're disappointed in our delegation, or members of our delegation, in the sense of not supporting and legislators across the state. But I will say this to Trustee Williams: we may have lost the battle, but we have not lost the war. And
We're going to win the war.
We're going to win the war, and we're going to find it. And I think the other positive of us proceeding with the purchase of this property is it shows that we have made an investment. We have a local investment. At least it's the seed. It's planting the seed to say, and it won't be the only investment that we'll make in this. I know the foundation's going to be involved, and I know that others in the community will be involved. But at least it shows that, hey, we're willing to say, hey, this is important enough that we make the investment to purchase. So with that, I appreciate your bringing to our attention the possible concerns that may be out there. I had another question, and I was just curious myself, having dealt with some of these in the past. I was curious why there was the provision for real estate taxes there. Given the fact that we're purchasing, one governmental entity is purchasing from another, and trying to recall in my past, I know when the county sold, I think it was the hospital district, the property, I don't believe there was any real estate tax. There was closing expenses, but I don't believe that there was real estate, but I could be wrong. I was just curious about that. And maybe Chair McGrath can shed some additional light on that too. I was just curious about why that provision was in there, but.
So I don't know if I need to ask for an amendment for the date of effective date.
I think you do.
And it doesn't have to be today, but I think probably today makes the most sense since we'll be approving it. So I would move to amend the motion on the floor to have an effective date of today.
If I may, Madam Chair, I do want to point out for the board's benefit that there is a financing and funding contingency clause in here. So up until the date of closing, if this board doesn't have financing or funding agreeable to it in its discretion, it can terminate the agreement. So once you close, that's one thing, but up until closing, you effectively have not been that financing or funding is not satisfactory to the board.
I would second the motion.
Did we want?
Trustee Walsberger? May I ask you a question? So Trustee Gee, you're asking that it's from the execution of for the title commitment, that you're worried about getting the title commitment back from First American Title? Am I correct in that?
Yeah, it gives us 30 days from the effective date of the agreement to review the title commitment. And so that would give us 10 days from.
Oh, well, 2 weeks less than what we, yeah.
Well, but it says honor before the 30th calendar day following the execution by both parties. So, I mean, we haven't signed it yet, so.
Right. No, I understand, but they're asking for an effective date of signing the agreement as of the 6th, which would mean it's as though we would have signed it the 6th.
Okay,
So
I guess
was just saying, why don't we make it effective today so we have all our rights?
And I know that's not a problem for this city because they authorized the city attorney to agree to clerical changes other than price and legal description, so that'd be fine.
Yeah, to me, it only makes sense to have it be today, but it's in alignment with our record keeping. What about the amendment to include the authorization of Chair McGrath or Dr. Overlander for signature?
I would amend it to say that both the chair and sign the document.
Both signatures.
Both signatures.
I would accept that friendly amendment to my amendment.
Robert's order.
All right, so any other discussion?
We just need to approve the amendment.
Yep, okay, so all those in favor to approve the amendment as articulated?
You want to articulate it one more time?
Yes, thank you. What do we have in the minutes? Do you have the consent? Yeah, I'm moving to amend the motion on the table to make the effective date for the signature by Gillette College be February 21st, and further authorizing President Overlander and Chair McGrath to co-sign the agreement without further action of the board.
All set. All right,
And
all
other
the,
documents. And other documents.
And other documents as necessary, period.
all those in favor of the motion with the amendment for the amendment, If you could say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So move then. Then for the amendments, so we want to go back to I'm getting the motion for the agreement of the purchase of property.
Which was motioned and seconded, right?
Right. Okay. So all those in favor? Without any more discussion, anybody have need for discussion as amended? So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So move then. Thank you, and thank you for your insight and discussion points. Okay, on to committee reports.
Well, if I can, like, how exciting. right?
Oh,
Like,
exactly.
Oh,
It is exciting. It's really exciting for this district to lock down that land. It's really exciting.
I think it's necessary for our district to lock down that land.
And if I might, Madam Chair, I would ask that, depending upon what the outcome of this legislative session is, that I think certainly the discussion of how we pursue funding of the building, the NZ building, I think that needs to be part of our trustee budget discussions for next fiscal year. So if that could be part of the workshop that we have, I think, and I would ask, I guess, the president to bring forward some different options that we might have and how we might take a look at that and what strategy that we should put in place.
and it's probably worth saying thank you to our friends at the city, our partners in having this vision for us, in helping work with us to continue this. Yeah, thank you.
Legislative update.
Absolutely, trustee Wasserberger, trustees, lots happening down in Cheyenne. You've been getting Aaron Taylor's updates on a daily basis. And then, of course, you have the opportunity to join the legislative wrap-up call with both the commission and with the WACT group. I do want to share with you, so let's talk about the CapCon. So the CapCon bill did not make it out of the 2/3 requirement for adoption out of the House. So really it died on the first day. So since that time, there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of, specifically for us, right? We have our building and land acquisition, the NZ building, in the capital construction process. But I want to make sure that you all understand very clearly, it was the entire capital construction bill. It wasn't just our projects. It was the major maintenance. It was flow through dollar for Camp Guernsey. There were some improvements and buildings happening on Camp Guernsey. So $55 million worth of improvement for our soldiers was removed, major maintenance for the state buildings. All of that went away when the CapCon bill did not make it through introduction. So we've certainly been in conversation with our delegation, asking thoughts on how we're going to move this forward. It's my understanding, and as I continue to check, that you'll see the capital construction bill basically be reintroduced through budget amendments. And so I just received literally as our meeting was started, Representative Clouston has introduced a budget amendment for our projects. So we'll just see how that has to play through. So it's in section 330 of the budget bill, and this is the authorization to acquire and accept the transfer of ownership for our land and buildings. And then the section 331, same, and then it also talks about the NZ building. So that's, I don't know if it's been introduced yet, but I do understand Representative Clouston is bringing this forward. So we'll be watching that. We'll be listening for what's happening. Certainly I'll reach out to Representative Clouston later today. I know they were in session until 11:30. I believe it was Monday night. So they're busy down there. Of course, you heard from Vice President Larson regarding the property tax. We're watching that closely. I understand there was an amendment made for WHIP today. I think you may have gotten the email from Lauren Shainfeld. I believe Senator Steinmetz removed the WHIP funding and inserted funding for current technical education. WHIP is important to all of our colleges. CT is important to us as well. So I think if you want to weigh in on that, that would be a good one to weigh in on. The inflation bill, all of those that impact the colleges are for us to keep an eye on. So it's just it's an interesting session this year for sure. So happy to discuss anything further or get more information so you have what you need if you want to reach out to our delegation.
Are there any discussion from the trustees for Dr. Overlander regarding the legislative update?
Who created the bill for that $180 million with the college, with the NC facility as part of that bill? Wasn't that originally billed $180,000 or million?
For the NZ building
For the
and
cap.
Yeah, it was all, yeah.
over the
Cap,
total.
yes, it came out.
The whole thing.
It would have come out. So what happens is so for the community colleges, we have to get approval from the commission. There's a formula that they use. From that portion, then it goes to the State Building Commission. The State Building Commission testifies in front of the joint appropriation that brings it forward. And that's for all of our projects. That's for all the projects.
But we were the only one as a junior college around Wyoming.
There was a project.
Was there
a project.
I think Eastern has one, yeah, yeah.
This is the smallest capital construction bill that's come forward, especially from the commission. So,
Yeah. I just, I think it's a little, I know I said this before, I just think it's ironic that, especially as President Overlander mentioned, the fact that this also took out the state money for preventive maintenance. It's not been 5 years that we spent $1 billion on renovating the Capitol building because we didn't do preventive maintenance. And now we're gonna all of a sudden not do preventive maintenance again on state buildings. We have a state hospital building in Evanston. It's a travesty. And we're not gonna do preventive maintenance. It floors me. But there's a lot of things about this, well.
Maybe keeping our eye on the ball, what's impacting just for our meeting today.
I think the other thing that's important to note is should our land and building acquisition not go through this year, the Northern Wyoming Community College District will continue to get major maintenance, but if major maintenance comes back, they will continue to get major maintenance dollars on these buildings. They have no obligation to send this money to take care of the buildings that it's allocated for. So I think it's deep and it's wide and it's concerning on many, many levels. So.
Well, thank you for pointing that out for all of us. Any other discussion that would be pertinent? Otherwise, look, based in time, let's go move on. Committee reports, governance committee report.
The governance committee has, I think, approved a final draft of the trustee handbook. It's available on the little folder icon on the left-hand margin. You can go look at that. Please review it and let us know if you have comments or concerns. I think this is a good document for current trustees and people who might be interested in being a trustee and new trustees and anybody else.
And
Yes, you sure may.
thank you. Thank you, President Overlander, and to all your staff and support in putting it together. It's not really like a board approved document as we've discussed, but we feel like it's a helpful tool in onboarding and guiding future boards. And I kind of see it as a living document. So I hope as we grow and mature as a board that it will continue to be revisited and updated. Thank you.
I would add that if there's any sections that you think are not included that you think should be, again, easy to edit. It just involves a little research and a little typing and a little time. That's all it involves. So let us know if there's things that are missing.
Well, thank you to the committee and to staff and everybody involved for getting that document put together for us. And we will absolutely take a look at it. On to WACT board report. Trustee Williams or Trustee Smith?
That'd be me this time. Pretty much all the discussion was what's going on in Cheyenne. And no one knows what's going on in Cheyenne. It's pretty obvious, but a lot of these affect the other colleges. I'm kind of surprised we're not getting more of a voice from other trustees around the state, because it really does affect them much more than it affects us. But that being said, they elected new officers and there weren't very many volunteers, so I am the new treasurer of WACT. I think it's good for us to have someone on that executive board as we move forward. A voice there is kind of important, so.
Thank you for doing that.
That's what we're doing.
Well, it makes history. It's another first for Gillette College District. And so you have paved the way and established that. So we really appreciate your dedication and commitment and taking one for the team. So thank you. Congratulations.
And most of them were happy that Gillette's got a voice. So that's good to know.
That is good. Anything else to add to the WACD report? All right, public comments. Trustee Anderson, can you see, is there anybody signed up for public comments or you welcome them now? No. All right. Reminders of upcoming events?
Absolutely, Chair Wasserberger. So one thing that I learned just in the last few days is it's my understanding that our men's basketball team is sitting #1 in the region. It is likely, it was likely they will go to district tournaments. District tournament, the South hosts this year, so likely down at Trinidad State. The same weekend as our home rodeo. So March, that late week of Friday's the 15th, which is also my youngest daughter's birthday. But it's that same weekend, so we'll just have to juggle that a little bit for sure. We have that chamber mixer, which we're hosting with the Gillette College Advisory Board coming up on March 21st. And then you can see the rest there too, but the casino night's coming up on April 6th. Screaming right into commencement on May 10th. And I will tell you that I did invite Dr. Sandra Caldwell to be our commencement speaker, and she's graciously agreed. So I think she has a phenomenal story to share, and I look forward to her sharing her story with our graduates. So
that's exciting.
Yeah,
I think that's great. So will we have the full version of the prom song by commencement? That's a good one.
So, Trustee Palmer and Williams, I spoke with Dennis yesterday, in fact, during the encore month. And we will not, this year, I'm sorry, we will not. We will begin working on it again over the summer. This is, as you all know, this year's been a heavy lift, which I know you're gonna show. But him getting the Energy City Voices back on track, but he intends to work on it over the summer. So I'm sorry, we will not. I look forward to having it at graduation as well. So.
You don't mind me asking?
No.
Get us singing first meeting of next fall.
We'll see. We will work as diligently as we can over the summer to get a fight song ready for.
I move Josh and Nell will sing it.
I'll second that.
At least we're way ahead of Thunder Beast.
Well, there you go.
Way ahead.
Trustee Wasserberger,
Yes.
I would add one more event. May 4th is the Pronghorn Booster Club Scramble. So if you'll just add that to your calendar.
Add that to the calendar as well.
What day is that, Josh?
May 4th.
Saturday, May 4th.
Be with you.
All right, anything else? All right, well then we'll adjourn the meeting. Here we go.
Thank you, Josh.
My helping.